This is Land of Havilah, Book of Ruth, chapter 4. Boaz isn't free to marry Ruth because there's a kinsman closer than Boaz who has first rights. But in ancient Israel, it's going to be a complicated transaction because whoever marries Ruth must also do several things. He must give her a son if possible, and manage Ruth and Naomi's land, and give the property to the son in the final will. And since Ruth has vowed to attach herself to Naomi until death, the care of Naomi comes with the deal as well. But Boaz wants to take it all on, and gladly, because he respects Ruth so much. Boaz needs to clear it with Ruth's closest kinsman as we go to verse 1. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there. Behold, the near kinsman of whom Boaz spoke came by. He said to him, "Come over here, friend, and sit down." He came over and sat down. He took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here," and they sat down. He said to the near kinsman, "Naomi, who has come back out of the country of Moab, is selling the parcel of land which was our brother Elimelech's. I thought I should tell you, saying, buy it before those who sit here and before the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, but if you will not redeem it, then tell me that I may know. For there is no one to redeem it besides you, and I am after you." He said, "I will redeem it." Then Boaz said, "On the day that you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must buy it also from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead on his inheritance." The near kinsman said, "I can't redeem it for myself, lest I endanger my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption for yourself, for I can't redeem it." Comment: The gate of the city served as a natural place of congregation, especially for elders. It was a place to pass time, and it also served something like a courthouse as a place to conduct public business. Genesis 19:1, 23:18, 34:20, Deuteronomy 25:7, Joshua 24, and others. So naturally Boaz went to the gate. He saw the nearest kinsman and called him over, and called over 10 elders to serve as witnesses. The nearest kinsman wanted to buy the land until Boaz pointed out that there were strings attached. A widow and her mother-in-law and all the duties of the near kinsman come with the package. So he backed out of the deal and agreed to transfer his rights to Boaz. He said, "Lest I endanger my own inheritance." In other words, he thought the deal might make him poorer rather than richer. Maybe he doesn't know or appreciate Ruth like Boaz does. Proverbs 31:10 hasn't been written yet, but Boaz knows it instinctively. It says, quote, "Who can find a worthy woman, for her price is far above rubies? The heart of her husband trusts in her. He shall have no lack of gain." End quote. The men are about to confirm the agreement as we go to verse 7. Now this was the custom in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning exchanging. To confirm all things, a man took off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was the way of formalizing transactions in Israel. So the near kinsman said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself." Then he took off his shoe. Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, "You are witnesses today that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, I have purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead on his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brothers and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today." All the people who were in the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. May Yahweh make the woman who has come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, which both built the house of Israel, and treat you worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. Let your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, of the offspring which Yahweh will give you by this young woman." Comment: When the deal was final, the witnesses pronounced a blessing on Boaz and Ruth, and we'll come back to that at the end. Verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went into her, and Yahweh enabled her to conceive, and she bore a son. Comment: Ruth didn't have any children when she was married to Mahlon, but as it says in verse 13, quote, Yahweh enabled her to conceive. Verse 14. The women said to Naomi, "Blessed be Yahweh, who has not left you today without a near kinsman. Let his name be famous in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him." Comment: in the gate of the city there was general celebration among the men, and now Naomi's women friends are joining in. It's a storybook ending. Ruth is now married and has a son. Naomi isn't genetically related to the son, but nevertheless she's legally, spiritually, and culturally the grandmother by heavenly decree, Deuteronomy 25:6. Ruth is better than 7 sons to Naomi because of her character. Ruth's character produced the chain of events that led to this point. Verse 16, Naomi took the child and laid him in her bosom and became nurse to it. Comment: Naomi took a large part in raising Obed, so she had the joy of being very close to her grandson. Verse 17, the women, her neighbors, gave him a name, saying, a son is born to Naomi. They named him Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Comment: the women neighbors suggested a name and it stuck. Obed, which means one who serves. In other words, the neighbors expect that he's going to take care of Naomi in her old age. Since the parents are persons of character, they're going to model all the right things to Obed, and hopefully the boy will indeed take care of Naomi as the neighbor ladies predict. Now coming up in the last 5 verses of the chapter is the male line that came before and after the boy Obed. There was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then Judah and Perez. Now here's the line after Perez, verse 18. Now this is the history of the generations of Perez. Perez became the father of Hezron, and Hezron became the father of Ram, and Ram became the father of Amminadab, and Amminadab became the father of Nahshon. Comment: Nahshon is Boaz's grandfather. There were 74,600 men of Judah during the wilderness years, Numbers 1:27, and Nahshon was their head, Numbers 1:7. So Boaz's grandfather was a very prominent person. Still in verse 20, and Nahshon became the father of Salmon, and Salmon became the father of Boaz, and Boaz became the father of Obed, and Obed became the father of Jesse, and Jesse became the father of David. Comment: the boy Obed became David's grandfather, which means Obed is in Jesus' line of ancestry, Matthew 1:5 and Luke 3:32. So the union between Boaz and Ruth took on eternal significance, and it all started with Ruth's character. Going back to the blessings in the gate, it turned out that Ruth did indeed build up the house of Israel like Rachel and Leah. She had innumerable descendants, especially when we take into account all the people that her descendant Jesus brought into the family of God. And we suppose that Yahweh treated Boaz worthily. Certainly his name became famous not just in Bethlehem, but everywhere else. So Yahweh fulfilled all the elements of the blessing in the gate far above what anyone could ask or think. Overall, we can take away a lot of lessons from Ruth. For one, we shouldn't underestimate the eternal consequences of character, or even of one key righteous act. And we should remember that Christ is our kinsman redeemer. He has converted our sadness and emptiness into eternal joy and worth. If we will commit ourselves to make God our God, as Ruth did, and attach ourselves to the welfare of our families and fellow man, as Ruth did, then Christ will redeem us as Boaz redeemed Ruth. Remember, it was Ruth who actually proposed to Boaz. Let's you and I propose to God. Let's each of us ask Him to redeem us by Jesus Christ. We should come humbly and in emptiness to Him as Ruth came to Boaz. Boaz didn't waste any time. He went straight to the gate. And Christ will go straight to the gate and adopt us as His own and place a blessing on us that will come to fruition beyond what we could ask or think. Check landofhavilah.net for other available titles.